Okay, so I'm back again. I know after I go on these long hiatuses and I come back with these videos, but hopefully you're still around to watch. My video today is basically going to be on thrifting. It's a whole like this big trend now. Everybody loves the thrift store all of a sudden. Like personally, my mom and I have been shopping in the thrift store forever because well, we're kind of crafters by nature, so it kind of just was natural for us to go to the thrift store and kind of cut things up or whatever. So we've been in the thrift store shopping for a considerably long time, and now it's a big trend to go to the thrift store and find old things, and it's totally cool. But a lot of people are concerned about thrift stores, basically because they don't know how to shop them. They don't know what's good from what's not, and how to pick things, and how to alter things and whatnot, and basically just the ins and outs of thrift shopping, which honestly is a lot of fun and isn't as hard as it seems to some people. If you just kind of let go and do your thing, just like you would in any other store. But there are, like I said, some basic rules and whatnot for going in and out of the thrift store and picking up quality items. And that's what I'm here to explain to you today. So basically, the first thing I want to talk about at the thrift store, why you should. Why you should thrift shop. You should thrift shop because there are a lot of things you can find in there that if you open your mind are very similar to what you can find in the department stores and your little kind of mid-market, mid-range stores for half the price. Also, there are things like if you're kind of like a trendier person and you don't want people, people who don't want people to know where they got their clothes from. The thrift store is a perfect place to say, "Oh yeah, I got from the thrift store, girl." People love your shirt, but they won't be able to pick it up most likely because thrift store things tend to be I'm not gonna say one of a kind, but they're one of a kind in that you're probably not gonna be able to go find that same shirt if you go to that store, 2 days later. Things go in and out of the thrift store like a revolving door. So it's really easy to be one of a kind or unique by going to the thrift store and kind of putting your own twist on things. So yes, they're similar looking things in the department stores. They're one of a kind, and of course they're way discounted than what they would be. You can find wonderful, wonderful pieces for half, a third, a quarter of what they would have been if you had found them in the store. Now, if you're, like I said, a trendy, crafty, kind of like edgy, on the edge person, you can take things that haven't been in the store for 10, 20 years and still wear them. Like this shirt is an Alfred Dunner shirt. Now, if you know who Alfred Dunner is, he kind of designs for more mature women. But I really like the pat. Like for example, I don't know if you can see, but it's like a floral along the neckline, and it's kind of like gold with a mother of pearl button up here. Now, the reason I had picked this shirt out was because if you notice, the florals are in right now. Pastels are in right now. These are kind of pastel and grays and blues and golds or whatever. And also, the collars that have um, any kind of design, so studs, collar pins, um, what else? Appliques and all that stuff are totally in right now, so it kind of feeds into it. Of course, it's kind of an older style shirt, but it has the same qualities, and you can be dressed up, dressed down. You can do whatever with the shirt. So basically, this shirt is probably what 15 years old, 10 years old, but you can find things like that in the thrift store and work them to your advantage. So again, you're one of a kind, you're trendy, you're on edge, and it's half Alfred Dunner stuff is normally cheap. So you can find this kind of stuff for considerably cheaper than what you would have paid for it if you had got it at market price when it was being sold. And sometimes you can honestly find stuff that it's probably still being sold, but somebody didn't, they didn't want it. They got it as a gift. They don't have a gift receipt. They give it to their store. I mean, that doesn't happen too often, but I actually have a friend whose sister used to give away like brand new Jordans to the thrift store because she was tired of them, and she wanted to buy new ones. Now most people sell theirs. She gave it to the thrift store. It's a toss up what you want to do, but you can sometimes find really good stuff. You can find name brand stuff if you're a name brand person but don't have name brand money. I'm sorry, I had to lean back. Yeah, so you can find a whole bunch of a large array of things in the thrift store that cater to most tastes and budgets. Also, the difference between thrift, now we're talking the difference between thrift and vintage. Thrift stores are like your Goodwills, your Salvation Armies. You give clothes to them and you never see those clothes again, basically. They take them to the main sorting place, people sort through them, send them to different locations depending on, the price point of the clothing and stuff like that, and your local neighborhoods that would buy that type of clothing. That's a thrift store. You don't have there's no quality control really. You'll have mixed up like high-end things next to, a shirt from 1986 with beer stains all over it because some old guy, was spilling ketchup at a Giants game, and he gave that shirt to the thrift store. No quality control, but you have to pick through a lot more. A consignment shop is a place where you give in your gently used items, and they will look through for quality. The people who run that particular store, it may be a chain or not, will look through and say, okay, we like this, we can use this. We like this, we can use that. These are selling right now. These aren't selling right now. Through your items and give what they're not selling back to you. Then the items that they take of yours that they sell, you get a portion of it back depending on their particular rules. So sometimes you get it in, if it sells in the first couple months, you get so much back, or you get so much back off the top. You get like 20% back. You get a percentage or a dollar amount back for your items. And like I said, those are more catered. Those stores tend to have more quality control, and they're more catered to a certain group or groups. So they might not take at one consignment shop, and take at another. Then vintage stores are the most picky because they're looking specifically for vintage things. So things that vintage spans. 80s is not considered vintage. Sorry guys, it's not vintage. Even 70s might not even sometimes be considered vintage, but from the years 60s up, that's normally considered vintage items. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes the 70s, depending, but most of the time it's like 60s upwards, so 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and the more you get into that, they're more like antiques. The 30s, 20s, the 10s, the 100s, the 1800s, 1880s, those are more like antiques at that point. But vintage is normally in the last century or so. So yeah, that's where you get your vintage in, or half century, I should say. Yes, and those stores are very particular. The price points are normally very much higher because you're paying for quality items from old that you're not probably going to be restocked or resold or found anywhere else, and they're going to be they might be more delicate. So that's how you pick your vintage from your not vintage, so depending on your budget, you'll what store you're going to, if you're going to a thrift shop, a consignment store, or a vintage shop. Now the basic rules for shopping in the vintage, consignment, and thrift stores are basically the same. That being said, all the different price points, you're still going to get some stuff that's not necessarily the best quality or is great quality. And like I said, the rules are the same. One, think about how it's going to be taken care of. If you don't have dry cleaning money, don't buy something that needs to constantly be dry cleaned. That's just going to it's going to take more out of your pocket than you are spending it. Because you might buy it for $5, but you're going to spend $20 on cleaning, and then you're going to spend $20 every time you clean it. And if you don't have that kind of money, it kind of defeats the purpose of going to the thrift store. Now, with cleaning, with that being our overhead, let's talk about actually getting it out of store. If you say you find a shirt, right, and the shirt is adorable, or a sweater, if it has a ring around the neck, if it has a red stain or a pink stain or a marker stain or something, if it has a funny smell, do not buy it. I don't care how. If you plan on wearing it, do not buy it. Because if you cannot get that stain, scent, or ring, or whatever it is out, you just wasted your money. Because what's the purpose of buying something that you're not going to wear just because it's cheap? Now, if you don't mind smelling like mothballs or having, a giant, beer stain, grease stain on the front of your shirt, your silk shirt, or, it's totally up to you. Go ahead, do it. If you feel like you can wash it out, that's wonderful. Go ahead and get it. Now, if it has a hole in it, again, don't pick it up if it does not have a hole in it. Or if it does have a hole in it, or holes in it. If it cannot be repaired. Certain holes cannot be repaired. Like, for example, if there was a hole in the middle of this shirt, sure, I could sew it up, but the shirt would not fit the same anymore. It would probably be gathered right here, and it would look like that, you know, look funny. Now, if there was maybe a rip in the seam up here, that could probably be fixed because it's already a seam, so I could probably pull it up. It might fit a little different in the shoulder area, but it probably wouldn't be as noticeable as a giant stitch right through the middle of here. You know what I mean? So don't pick up anything that's gonna fit wise is gonna change if you sew it up or if it has a hole. Also fit. If it doesn't fit, it's not going to fit. Mind you, these items are probably, you know, anywhere from a year to maybe 20 years old. They've probably been worn. They've probably been washed. Now, with all that being said, how can you expect something that didn't fit after it's already been worn and washed to fit after you wear it and wash it? Unless it's too big and it might shrink, you're probably not going to be able to stretch something out if it's too small and it's probably already shrunk. So don't get anything that doesn't fit just because it's cute or it's cheap. Don't let cute and cheap persuade you out of your money. Because that's a lot of times people go wrong. They think they have to buy everything in their store because it's cheap and it can be fixed. Not everything can't be fixed. Not everything can be fixed. So don't fall into that trap. Don't fall into the trap of I can fix it. If you're gonna use it for scraps, that's great. Like if I was gonna tear this shirt up and make it into like a vest or something, great, you know. But if I plan to wear it like this and there's a giant hole in the arm, then it's a waste. If you're gonna use something for scraps, make sure that the piece you're going to use or the pieces you're going to use are suitable for what you're gonna do. Because otherwise you're going to be stuck with a garment that's not going to work with what you're going to do. But that's a great thing about thrift stores, that you can buy, you can do a lot of DIY, is what I want to say. You can pick up old skirts and totally rearrange the skirt and not feel like you've wasted a bunch of money on a skirt from, you know, maybe Nordstrom or something that you could have done yourself. Or if you're taking the skirt and changing it, you kind of spent a lot of money to do something else with the skirt. You know what I mean? So when you go to the thrift store, you kind of you're kind of empowering yourself by saving your money and doing it yourself if you can take on the challenge or the actual project is not a challenge. But whatever, you know, you're safe. So make sure that your garment you're buying is suitable for what you're actually doing it for. Now, that's not saying don't be inspired. Be inspired and do what you want, but don't waste your money. That's pretty much the theme of this whole video. How not to waste your money in the thrift store. That might be the title. And the third or fourth, maybe fifth thing that's most important. Consider your budget. When you walk into the thrift store, have a budget, because you may find a million things that you love. If you cannot afford it, do not get it, because odds are it's a thrift store item and you'll never see it again. But it's probably not the end of the world. It's probably going to come back in style again at some point, and if not, you're really not missing out on anything, are you? Because it's not back in style, unless you're really trying to be totally out there in the third dimension. So, do not feel pressure to buy things in the thrift store because they're cheap. Know your budget and stick to it. Stick to your budget. If you feel like you're torn in between two things, think, if I walked out the store right now, would I miss this? How bad would I miss this? Could I use this again? Think about all those important things. And if you really feel like you cannot live without two things or three things or whatever it is in question, get them both. It's just that simple. Get them both, but don't feel pressured to buy anything that's cheap and it's cute. Consider your budget. And then, sorry, my phone was ringing. Basically, and my last tip is know your thrift stores and know their sales. Certain stores will have like a blue tag day, a red tag day, white tag day, and those things are 20% off, 30% off. Wednesdays might be college night or night. So if you have an ID, you show your ID and get extra percent off or whatever. Military discounts. So know the sales going on in your thrift store so you can shop accordingly. Ask questions so you know when they're bringing in their new shipments. So you might be able to find pieces that you can be the first on these pieces. Basically, you'll know when to come in, what nights to come in, and you'll basically be the first person in there knowing basically the same thing. Shop often, shop well, and shop often. That's another thing. If you go in there and you just pick up random pieces, you're not spending your money, wasting your money. You're actually doing yourself a disservice rather than helping yourself out. So shop well and shop often. That way, you're picking up the better quality pieces from the time that you're going in there. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think there's any other real tips. But if you have any questions concerning thrift store items, thrift store shopping, vintage store shopping, fit, quality, cut, all that stuff, please let me know in the comments. If you would like me to further detail anything else about shopping and being a informed consumer, please again let me know in the comments, and I will surely get back to you. I think that's it. All right, bye guys.